personality. They they had the turn the other cheek, nonviolent. Oh, they were at that point in their lives. You know, remember they were almost 50, and one of my grandmothers was already late 50s, my grandfather. So they had mellowed. If my grandparents had been much younger, my grandfather easily would have leaned toward Malcolm X.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a radical.
Well, he almost had to be to live, through what he lived through. Grandparents leaned toward Martin Luther King. Younger uncles and other family members probably were right in the middle between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. We believed that change would occur, and that in order for change to occur, God had to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. The fact that Martin Luther King was a minister is what really, I think, caused people in the African American community to gravitate toward him, because ministers, the churches were the center, the political hub of the community anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was you guys were watching the I Have a Dream speech on television, and what about reading material? What did your grandmother read, for example?
Probably the most my grandmother read. Well, we all read the newspaper every day.
The Dallas Morning News.
Dallas Morning News. We also read some weekly papers that were printed, African American papers.
Okay, like what? Do you remember?
Post Tribune. The other one was called the Dallas Express. There's one other. I'll think of it in a moment. And what my grandmother read, newspapers, predominantly the other two books that she would read were the Bible, and we always had a dictionary. My grandmother always wrote letters to everybody in the family. She just did. And what she would do is she was a master manipulator, because what she would have me do is to come and sit with her and have the dictionary. And she said, "How do I spell this word?" I knew she knew how to spell it. She wanted me to look it up.
Teach me dictionary skills.
Yeah, teach me dictionary skills. And I had them because we grew up with dictionaries, and the school I went to, you knew what a dictionary was, and you had a dictionary. Mm-hmm. You probably knew most of the words in the dictionary. So those were the major things she read. And she also taught us, here's what you need to do. You need to read the morning news. You need to read, because we had the Times Herald as well. Mm-hmm. And she said, and you need to read the African American papers. And she said, somewhere in the middle of that is the truth.
Nice. Was this a morning ritual then? You guys would read the papers
Well,
together?
we read the paper because my brother had a paper route. He threw the Dallas Morning News. Uh-huh. So we read it every morning. I still read it the crack of dawn, because my brother threw the newspaper. My brother's deceased now, but my brother's 6 years, 11 months older than I am. So my brother, when he graduated from high school, I was completing the 5th grade. Because my brother was an athlete as well, he had a newspaper route. He would get up in the morning before I'm up. He's thrown papers, come home, taking a shower, and he's gone before I get up. Mm. He's home after I go to bed. Mm. And so there were days that I wouldn't see him. I know he's there because we're in the same room, but I don't see him. And so as I got older, maybe 3rd grade, I recognized, you know when I can spend some time with my brother? Throwing papers. Mm-hmm. So I asked him to start getting me up, and so I started helping him with the paper route. And that was our quality time. We did it on bikes. He bought a car when he was a senior in high school, and little did my family know, it was a standard shift. It was on column. He put me in his lap. I would steer, and he'd drive. And we'd throw in papers. And so I still read the Dallas Morning News right now because I grew up with an older brother who had a paper route. Yeah.
Oh,
What were some of the TV programs
Wow.
that your parents enjoyed watching?
My grandmother loved the stories, the soap operas, the guiding light, As the World Turns, Search for Tomorrow, and during that time of the day, only in the summer because you were in school. No, that's what you watched. We had more than one TV. There was a period of time where we only had one TV, and then we ended up there were three TVs in the house. But as a young kid, during the stories, that's all you watched. There was no turning the channel.
That's hours of it.
For hours of it. Of course, on Saturdays we'd watch cartoons. The typical stuff. We watched game shows. The Price is Right. What is this show? Wow. This guy stands behind the partition and can't even think of the name of it. I'm dating myself. Of course, on Sundays it was Ed Sullivan. We liked as often as we could, and that's odd, I do that now, anything that was educational, that had an educational slant to it, games like Password, those game shows most of them were educational, they weren't reality shows back then, and we watched those, and we learned, and we're sitting there saying, when they're doing Password, you dummy! What's the show that comes on now? It's really a hard show. It's what is it? It's still on. Jeopardy.
Oh yeah, that's
Jeopardy's tough.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, there are very smart people on Jeopardy, and so we watch Jeopardy. Some of the old shows, westerns, The Lone Ranger. What was it? Lassie. It came on Sundays. There weren't a lot. Well, I tell you what. This is interesting about TV. I can remember as a young kid my grandparents listening to Amos and Andy on the radio. And then when it came on TV, we would watch it, but I didn't like it.
You didn't?
No, I didn't like it because I didn't like it, number one, because of the way they talked. Yeah. And the other thing is, get this, and I still have it. We had a book. It was Br'er Rabbit. We have an old edition of it. My brother was probably one of the smartest guys I ever met. My brother, when I would try to read it, he said, "Who the hell talks like this? Nobody does. Why would they even?" My grandmother's like, "Shut up, leave it alone." And I still have the book, and it was that old head scratching, feet shuffling stuff that just didn't sit well with me. And I didn't like Amos and Andy. My grandfather liked it, and I wouldn't watch it.
Little political stand as a kid.
I just didn't like it because it was not the norm to me. I didn't know anybody like them.
It was insulting.
It was insulting to me. Yeah. It took me the longest, even as an adult, to watch, moving up to the east side, what's his name? George Jefferson, the Jeffersons.
Yeah.
It took me a while. I didn't like the Jeffersons, neither did I like Archie Bunker. But I finally figured it out. I finally got it. Same guy produced him. He was making a point. And so when I finally figured it out, I said, okay, let me watch. And so I watched. I hated Archie Bunker as well. But then it got to me. You know what? Norman Lear's making a point.
Yeah, that's his character.